The coffee was scalding, the kind that promised second-degree burns and delivered a jolt of necessary caffeine. Lena Volkov held the ceramic mug in both hands, a fortress against the frigid early November morning creeping through the panoramic windows of the Atherton Public Policy Institute. Outside, the city was a wash of monochrome grey, the perfect backdrop for her mood. She was 27, a rising star in her field, and currently reviewing a grant proposal that was so poorly researched it felt like a personal affront. Lena was a woman who built her life on meticulousness and victory. Every degree, every internship, every promotion was a trophy claimed, polished, and displayed. She excelled because she refused to accept anything less than perfection. A chime from her desktop signaled a new email. She clicked it, expecting a reminder about the evening's donor reception, and instead, her world tilted. The subject line was innocuously titled, "New Senior Research Fellow, Welcome." The body of the email was brief, but the picture beside the name was not. It was a professional headshot, softly lit, featuring a woman with a confident, effortless smile, eyes that were startlingly clear and slightly challenging, and a single, elegant braid resting over one shoulder. It was Anya Sharma. Lena's carefully constructed professional composure shattered like the glass ceiling she was so close to breaking. She forgot the grant proposal. She forgot the scalding coffee. She simply stared, the name an unwelcome static in the quiet hum of her office. Anya Sharma. Her rival. Her nemesis. The one person who had ever seriously threatened Lena's claim to perpetual dominance. The ghost of Atherton High. The memory was immediate and visceral, tasting like cheap hairspray and polished gymnasium floor. Atherton High, 2013. The academic decathlon finals. The championship for the whole state hinged on the final question, a ridiculous tiebreaker about the socio-economic impact of the 19th century opium trade. Lena, then a fierce, sharp 16-year-old, had the answer locked in her mind. Her hand was poised above the buzzer. But before she could move, there was a flash of movement beside her. Anya, her hair braided just like the woman in the photo, with a look of pure, concentrated focus, had slammed her hand down. Sharma, Anya, the moderator had intoned. While the opium wars themselves led to significant political upheaval, the lasting socio-economic impact was the dismantling of China's historical trade surpluses, forcing the adoption of a silver-based economy, leading to long-term deflationary pressure and a widening wealth gap. Anya had rattled off, word perfect. Lena had felt the air leave the room. Anya had claimed the point. Atherton High, for the first and only time in Lena's career there, had lost. The only trophy Lena had ever wanted that she hadn't claimed. And Anya Sharma had been the architect of that failure. Their rivalry wasn't petty, it was existential. They were the two smartest, most driven students the school had ever seen, locked in a cold war of perfect GPAs, competing extracurriculars, and silent, steely glares across the cafeteria. They were two magnets with the same charge, always repelling, never able to coexist peacefully. Anya had gone to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. Lena had attended Harvard. Their paths had diverged, but the tension, the sheer, electric awareness of the other's existence, had never fully faded. And now, Anya was here. In her institute. The collision. Lena slammed her laptop shut. She needed air, or a battlefield. She grabbed her coat and marched toward the main administrative wing, intending to find her boss, Dr. Evans, and demand an explanation. This was not a move, it was a hostile takeover. The hallways of the institute were usually quiet, all hushed carpet and soft lighting. But as Lena rounded the corner by the executive offices, she walked directly into a flurry of activity. A moving crew was carting sleek, modern furniture into the office right across the hall from hers. And there, directing the chaos with an exasperated but beautiful wave of her hand, was Anya Sharma. Anya was taller than Lena remembered, dressed in sharp, expensive tailoring that screamed effortless authority. She was pointing toward a bookshelf, her profile framed by a shaft of morning sun that seemed to highlight the subtle, almost golden undertones of her skin. She looked like a cover model for Future Policy Quarterly. Anya turned, sensing the disturbance in the force, and their eyes locked. The recognition was instantaneous. The shared history, all the years of competition, the silent battles, the single, devastating loss, flared between them like a circuit overload. The professional smile Anya had been offering the moving men vanished, replaced by the same challenging, slightly amused curve of the lip Lena remembered from the decathlon stage. Lena Volkov, Anya said, her voice a rich, low mezzo-soprano that made the name sound like a declaration. Not a question. Not a greeting. A statement of fact. Lena forced her own features into a mask of cool, professional indifference. It was the hardest thing she'd done all morning. Anya Sharma. I didn't realize Atherton was bringing in external talent. Welcome to the Atherton Public Policy Institute. She emphasized the name of the organization, a subtle reminder of whose territory they were on. Anya walked toward her, slowly, deliberately. She stopped only a foot away, forcing Lena to look up slightly. The scent of her, something clean, expensive, and a little bit like cedar, was a new, unwelcome sensory detail. I didn't realize this institute had an established seniority hierarchy based on high school rivalries. Lena, Anya countered, her eyes sparkling with that familiar, infuriating intelligence. I'm the senior research fellow, which means we'll be sharing a lot more than just a hallway. Dr. Evans specifically cited my work on global trade stabilization as being exactly what this institute needs. Anya leaned in just a fraction, lowering her voice so only Lena could hear. I see you're still reviewing the grant proposals, though. Seems like some things never change. It was a perfectly aimed jab. Lena was the implementer. Anya was now the visionary. A higher rank, a wider scope, and an office exactly 30 feet from hers. Lena felt a sudden, profound spike of adrenaline. Not anger, not exactly, but a raw, electric need to win. To prove her worth, not to her boss, but to her. She met Anya's gaze, holding it steady. We'll see how long that title lasts, Anya. This is a policy institute, not a debate club. Results matter here. And you're sitting in the office that used to be the only thing separating me from the director's suite. Anya smiled, a genuine, breathtakingly beautiful curve of her lips that somehow made the competitive heat in the air even more intense. Then I suppose we have our first competition, don't we, Lena? Anya murmured. The one of us who delivers the highest impact research proposal by the end of the year gets to claim the director's chair next. Game on. The air between them was thick, charged with years of unspoken antagonism and a strange, powerful, undeniable attraction that Lena refused to acknowledge. It was the thrill of the chase, the tension of two forces colliding, and the unwelcome realization that she had just found the one person on the planet capable of truly challenging her. The rivalry was back. But something felt different this time. They were adults now. The stakes were higher. And the sheer physical proximity, the quiet acknowledgement of their history, had added a dangerous, intoxicating new layer to their old game. Lena took a slow, deep breath, tasting the metallic tang of challenge. Game on, Sharma, she replied, her voice steady and low. Just try to keep up. Chapter 2, The Shared Cube. The Institute's director, Dr. Evans, a man whose primary skills lay in fundraising rather than discernment, decided the best way to handle his two new senior fellows was through bureaucratic incompetence. Synergy, ladies. Synergy, he cheerfully announced that afternoon, oblivious to the twin thunderclouds forming in the room. The synergy he was referring to was a joint project, a massive, politically sensitive white paper on sustainable economic growth in developing coastal cities. It was high-profile, high-stress, and had a brutal 6-week deadline. To encourage collaboration, or, more likely, because the institute was overcrowded, Evans had assigned them to the only available joint workspace, a cramped, temporary conference room on the 4th floor, affectionately known as the Cube. Lena walked into the Cube an hour later, armed with 2 steaming lattes, a laptop, and a fortress of annotated books. She was prepared for war, or at least a highly structured, emotionally barren collaboration. Anya was already there. She hadn't bothered with coffee or books. She was sprawled in one of the uncomfortable mesh chairs, one leg hooked over the armrest, her long braid trailing over the back. She was on a video call, speaking fluent, rapid-fire Mandarin, her face alight with persuasive energy. Lena stopped dead in the doorway. Anya, in her element, was magnetic. She spoke with her hands, her eyes bright, her arguments flowing like a fast current. Lena grudgingly had to admit Anya possessed a kind of genius for instant, charismatic connection that Lena, the methodical planner, had to work twice as hard to emulate. Anya caught her eye mid-sentence. Instead of breaking her concentration, she winked, a quick, dazzling flash of confidence, before effortlessly switching back to the negotiation. Lena felt a spike of heat, a strange mix of annoyance and something dangerously close to admiration. She set her things down with a decisive thud on the opposite side of the table. When Anya finally ended the call, she sighed, stretching languidly like a cat in the sun. "Ah, the ever-punctual Lena Volkov. To what do I owe the pleasure of your glowering presence?" "We have a shared deadline, Sharma," Lena said coolly, pulling out the project brief. "And I don't glower. I focus. Now, let's get the ground rules established. I'll handle the quantitative modeling. You take the cultural and political fieldwork." Anya smiled, a slow, predatory curve of her mouth. "You want to stick to the numbers, Lena? Still afraid of the human element?" "I prefer rigor and accuracy over your emotional diplomacy," Lena retorted, flipping open her laptop. "And for the record, I'll be in charge of the final executive summary. I have a superior grasp of institutional tone." Anya pushed off the chair and walked over to Lena's side of the table. The proximity was instant, electric. She leaned over Lena's shoulder to look at the brief, the cedar scent from the morning now closer, more distracting. "Tell you what, Volkov," Anya whispered, her breath brushing Lena's ear, sending a ridiculous shiver down her spine. "We're both adults. We both know how good we are. Let's make this interesting." Lena clenched her jaw. "It's interesting enough. The future of $1 billion port is at stake." "No, I mean personally interesting," Anya corrected, her voice dropping. She straightened up slightly, but her hand rested casually on the back of Lena's chair, trapping her. "We're going to be living in this cube for 6 weeks. Let's make a real wager." Lena slowly turned in her seat to face her, her gaze locked on Anya's challenging eyes. "What kind of wager, Sharma?" "If my fieldwork and on-the-ground policy proposals prove to be the superior foundation for the paper, and I mean indisputably superior, leading to a major financial success for the Institute, you owe me a dinner. My choice of restaurant. And you have to let me pick the topic of conversation. And if my quantitative analysis and modeling prove to be the critical factor in securing the port deal." Lena countered, the adrenaline surging. She was already thinking 3 steps ahead, anticipating the mathematical proof of her victory. Anya leaned back in slightly, a subtle shift in weight that felt like an invasion of space. Her gaze was intense, traveling from Lena's sharp, severe ponytail down to the tight knot in her posture. "Then I owe you a dinner," Anya said, her voice husky. "My restaurant. And I have to let you interview me for 2 hours about anything you want. No topics off limits. I lay my entire life on the table for your inspection." The terms were absurd, yet perfectly tailored to their personalities. Anya, the gambler, betting on personal connection and high-stakes social situations. Lena, the analyst, betting on information and control. "Deal," Lena said immediately, extending a hand across the desk, her expression unyielding. Anya didn't shake it right away. Instead, her fingers wrapped around Lena's wrist, her touch warm and surprisingly firm. She met Lena's eyes, and the playful spark in her gaze was momentarily replaced by a deep, serious fire. "Remember, Lena," Anya said softly, her thumb brushing a pulse point. "This isn't about the Institute anymore. It's about us. One of us is going to win, and one of us is going to owe." She released Lena's wrist and stepped back, all business once more. "Now, let's get started. I need access to the existing market volatility models before I leave for Beijing next week." Lena stared at the spot where Anya's hand had been. The skin felt alive, tingling with the imprint of the rival. The rivalry was no longer just professional. It had become a raw, personal tension, a countdown to a high-stakes, intimate consequence. She had 6 weeks to beat Anya Sharma, but a dark, thrilling part of her was starting to wonder what it would be like to lose. Chapter 3. The 4 a.m. Catastrophe. The 6-week deadline was halfway gone, and the cube had become a crucible. It was a confined space where two brilliant, driven women fought a silent, 6-by-10-foot war over policy, data integrity, and whose methodology was superior. Lena was a creature of routine, driven by caffeine and cold logic. Anya was a whirlwind of unpredictable energy, fueled by impulse and late-night street food. Their work styles clashed beautifully. Lena would meticulously build a tower of quantitative arguments. Anya would stride in and demolish it with a single, perfectly aimed question about cultural context. It was 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. The institute was silent, save for the rhythmic hum of the ventilation and the furious clicking of two keyboards. They hadn't spoken more than 5 necessary words in 3 hours. Lena was deep in a spreadsheet, modeling the environmental impact of the proposed port expansion. Her hair was loose, escaping the severe ponytail, and her focus was absolute, a dangerous, tunneling concentration that often led to breakthroughs. Lena, your assumption for the cost of retrofitting local fishing fleets with renewable energy technology is off by about 30%, Anya said suddenly, without looking up from her own screen, where she was drafting an annex on indigenous land rights. Lena slammed her palm flat on the desk. I've been staring at these numbers for 2 hours. It's sourced from the International Green Fund's 2024 annual report. Where do you get 30%? I don't get it from a report, I get it from calling the fleets, Anya said, finally lifting her gaze. Her eyes, usually sparkling with competitive fire, were shadowed with exhaustion, making them look impossibly soft. I spoke to the Port Authority director. He put me in touch with the local fishermen's cooperative in Shenzhen. They're getting subsidized government loans, which drastically drops the long-term cost. Lena stared at her. You called someone in Shenzhen at 3 a.m. their time. They work on a fishing schedule, Volkov, not a 9-to-5 policy schedule, Anya shot back, a flicker of that familiar impatience returning. You can't quantify community without talking to the people. The barb hit home. Lena felt a familiar surge of defensiveness. And you can't build a sustainable economic model on anecdotes and cooperatives. Sharma. My model is accurate. Yours is merely charming. Charm and personal credibility are what get legislation passed. Lena. Your accurate, peer-reviewed model will sit in a filing cabinet gathering dust if you can't convince the people who actually live there to implement it. The argument escalated quickly, fueled by sleep deprivation and their deep-seated intellectual antagonism. Lena stood up, leaning over the table. You're a romantic, Anya. You've always substituted emotional appeal for verifiable fact. And you're a robot, Lena. You've always been terrified of anything that can't be put into a neat, perfect column. Anya rose to meet her. They were standing mere inches apart across the narrow desk, their hands braced on the table's edge, breathing the same stale, heated air. The air was thick not just with anger, but with the sudden, overwhelming awareness of each other. The sharp angles of Lena's collarbones, the way Anya's exhaustion had pulled her hair into a messy, appealing knot. Then, the lights flickered and died. The cube plunged into darkness. The moment of truth. The silence was absolute, broken only by the loud, desperate whir of their laptops running on battery power. Fantastic, Lena muttered, dropping back into her chair. The tension, suddenly released from the visual focus of their argument, pooled in the darkness between them. Just perfect. Calm down, Lena. It's a brownout. This building is ancient. Anya's voice drifted out of the blackness, softer now, edged with a weariness that sounded almost comforting. I can't calm down, Anya. I had just finished running the Monte Carlo simulation for market volatility. Anya's sharp intake of breath cut her off. Wait. You ran the full simulation locally. On your laptop. You didn't push it to the server. A cold knot formed in Lena's stomach. The Institute's ancient server was reliable, but running a complex simulation like that took immense local processing power, leaving the laptop vulnerable. Lena had been in her hyper-focused bubble, convinced her system was superior to the shared server. I was still validating the datasets, Lena stammered. Anya fumbled for her phone and turned on the flashlight, illuminating the room in a single, stark beam. She pointed it at Lena's screen. The screen was black. Not asleep, but a deep, permanent blackness. The power spike must have fried the motherboard, Anya whispered, her voice tight. Lena, did you save the simulation data? Lena stared at the black screen, her stomach churning. The Monte Carlo simulation. 6 weeks of data collection, 3 days of pure computation, the mathematical core of their white paper, all gone. All lost to her own arrogant insistence on relying on her personal machine. No, Lena finally choked out, the word tasting like ash. I haven't saved the final run yet. It's all on there. Hours of validation, the entire output. Anya looked at her, and the fire, the challenge, the competitive edge, it all vanished. What was left was pure, unadulterated sympathy. For the first time, Lena saw the exhaustion and the vulnerability in Anya's own eyes, a mirror of her own devastation. Oh, Lena, Anya breathed, taking a small step closer. That's everything. Lena felt a sudden, profound wave of despair wash over her. It wasn't just the work, it was the failure. The unforgivable error. She prided herself on perfection, and this was catastrophic. Her professional mask crumbled. She squeezed her eyes shut, unable to look at the wreckage of her laptop. It's over, Lena whispered, her voice barely audible. We can't rebuild that in time. I just threw away the whole project. A hand touched her shoulder, warm, heavy, and grounding. Anya's touch. Stop, Anya commanded gently. She moved closer, resting one hand on the desk near Lena and the other still on her shoulder, leaning in until Lena could feel the soft heat of her body. The cedar scent was overpowering in the darkness. Don't you dare say that. You don't get to quit. Not after everything. Anya's voice was low, intimate, and fierce, a tone she had never used with Lena before. Look at me. Lena slowly opened her eyes. The phone light cast deep shadows, making Anya's eyes intense, magnetic. You think I don't know what it feels like to lose, Lena? I beat you at the decathlon, but I almost failed out of Oxford my first year because I only knew how to be a rival, not a partner, Anya confessed, dropping a piece of her own carefully guarded history. You're brilliant. You made one technical mistake because you were pushing yourself to the breaking point. She squeezed Lena's shoulder, a gesture of pure, unguarded encouragement. We are going to find a solution. My fieldwork is solid. Your data is still in the raw files, correct? We rebuild the model from the ground up, but this time, we do it together. I'll take the programming lead. You feed me the formulas. We'll run it on the secure server at my university contacts lab. We don't have time to fight anymore. We only have time to win. In that moment of shared disaster, the years of rivalry felt absurd, a childish game. Lena looked at Anya, not as her enemy, but as the only person in the world capable of understanding this level of professional devastation, and the only person capable of helping her fight her way back. Why? Lena whispered, her voice raw. Why are you helping me? This is your chance to win the wager, hands down. Anya smiled, a genuine, tired, breathtaking smile that was completely devoid of malice. Because the port deal matters more than the director's suite, Lena. And honestly, beating you when you're already down wouldn't feel like a win at all. It would feel like cheating. Anya leaned in further, her face incredibly close, the heat of her skin radiating against Lena's cheek. Now, stand up. Grab your backpack. We're going to my apartment. I have backup charging stations and better Wi-Fi. We'll be done by sunrise. Lena nodded, too overwhelmed to speak, too tired to resist. When Anya took her hand to gently pull her out of the chair, Lena didn't pull away. Their palms pressed together, familiar enemies finally, irrevocably, joining forces. The touch wasn't professional. It was the first true, undeniable acknowledgement of the chemistry that had been sizzling beneath the surface of their rivalry for a decade. Chapter 4. The view from her window. Anya's apartment was the exact opposite of Lena's rigidly minimalist townhouse. It was full of life, scattered books, a chaotic but comfortable sectional sofa piled with textured throws, and the warm, lingering scent of turmeric and ginger. The walls were decorated not with framed degrees, but with vibrant, abstract art and photographs of people laughing in various international locations. In the center of it all was Anya's salvaged wooden dining table, currently buried under power cords, a makeshift server hub, and 24 packets of instant ramen. Here, Anya said, tossing Lena a worn Oxford hoodie, soft, faded, and smelling faintly of that same cedar and something uniquely Anya. You look frozen. The heater in this building is temperamental. Lena, still numb from the panic of the data loss, hesitated only a moment before shedding her structured, tailored blazer and pulling on the hoodie. It was impossibly comfortable, swallowing her whole. The warmth was immediate and surprisingly disorienting. She felt less like Lena Volkov, the immaculate policy analyst, and more like an exhausted student. They spent the next 3 hours in a silence more intense and collaborative than any argument. Anya proved to be a startlingly gifted programmer, her fingers flying over the keyboard, efficiently pulling raw data files from Lena's crashed laptop and uploading them to her contact's secure server. Lena, in turn, fed her the complex formulas and logic pathways required to rebuild the simulation, her mind working with a cold, desperate clarity. Wait, I need you to double-check this input vector, Anya said, leaning back and rubbing her tired eyes. The environmental impact model requires a different decay constant for the localized pollution spread. Lena slid her chair closer, moving around the edge of the table. Their heads were bowed over the glowing screen, their shoulders nearly brushing. Lena pointed to a line of code. No, that constant is for deep-sea dispersal. The new port is in shallow coastal marshland. We need the value for particulate settling, Lena corrected, her breath close to Anya's ear. Shallow coastal marshland, Anya repeated, her voice a low murmur. She turned her head, their eyes meeting in the dim glow of the screen. Her gaze held a new kind of intensity, a fusion of intellectual respect and weary intimacy. You really know your stuff, Volkov. Even when your hardware fails, your mind is flawless. Lena felt a blush creep up her neck, a foreign, unwelcome sensation. You're a genius at coding, Sharma. Where did you learn to bypass a proprietary network like that? Anya offered a small, tired smile. When you travel the world chasing policy, you learn to break a few virtual locks to get the data you need. Necessity breeds competence. The moment stretched, suspended in the 4 a.m. stillness. They weren't rivals now. They were two highly skilled people fighting side by side against a common enemy, the clock. Why the marshland, Anya? Lena asked suddenly, the question stemming from a deep, unprofessional curiosity. You could have done anything with your degree. Why choose the hardest, dirtiest policy work? Anya's gaze drifted toward the window, which offered a spectacular, glittering view of the city waking up. It started in Chennai, Anya confessed, her voice softer than Lena had ever heard it. My grandfather was a fisherman. The first port expansion ran over his village, claiming the land and ruining the water with pollution. He never got compensated properly. He died a year later, watching the place he loved destroyed by policy he couldn't fight. She turned back to Lena, the vulnerability raw and visible. I chose this work because I want to be the person who writes policy that protects people like him. You care about the numbers, Lena. I care about the faces behind the numbers. That's always been the difference. Lena absorbed this piece of personal history, the origin story of her nemesis, and the walls she had built around Anya began to crumble. She realized that Anya's emotional diplomacy wasn't a flaw, it was a profound, ethical drive. I didn't know that, Lena murmured, feeling suddenly small in the massive hoodie. Of course you didn't, Anya said, without accusation. We never spoke about anything real. We were too busy trying to annihilate each other's GPA. The laughter that escaped them was tired, genuine, and shared. It broke the last of the professional tension. Anya pushed her chair back. Okay. The model is running on the remote server. We have 4 hours until the results populate. We need an hour of sleep. She stood up and walked toward a small door. The couch is comfortable, but you should take the guest room. I'll grab some blankets. Anya, wait. Lena rose quickly and followed her. She stopped just as Anya reached the small, dark hallway. Thank you. For saving the project. For not letting me quit. Anya turned slowly, illuminated by the spill of kitchen light. She looked utterly exhausted but utterly beautiful, her barrier down, her fierce intelligence tempered by genuine kindness. "We're a good team, Lena," Anya said, her voice dropping. "When we're not actively trying to kill each other, that is." Lena took a small, involuntary step closer. All the tension they had been generating for years, the intellectual sparring, the professional challenge, the proximity, crystallized in that moment. It wasn't just respect or gratitude. It was a searing, undeniable attraction. "I don't hate you, Anya," Lena whispered, the confession a shocking violation of her own rules. "I never did. I couldn't stop competing with you." Anya's eyes searched hers, filled with a mixture of surprise and a deep, answering desire. "I know. It was always easier to fight than to admit what the competition felt like." Anya took the final step, closing the distance. She lifted one hand and gently brushed a stray piece of hair off Lena's cheek, her touch feather-light and devastating. "What did it feel like, Lena?" Anya murmured. "Like a gravitational pull," Lena admitted, her voice thick. "Like I was always orbiting you." Anya's fingers curled softly around Lena's jaw. She didn't ask permission. She simply leaned in and covered Lena's mouth with hers. The kiss was the antithesis of their rivalry. It was slow, deep, and utterly consuming. It was not a sudden explosion, but a quiet, powerful merging, a release of 10 years of coiled tension. It tasted like late-night coffee and the profound, dizzying relief of finally claiming something you'd always wanted, even when you didn't know you wanted it. Lena melted into the kiss, her hands flying up to grip the soft fabric of Anya's hoodie, pulling her closer, cementing the connection. The warmth, the scent, the overwhelming reality of Anya Sharma finally surrendering her lips. It was better than any trophy, any award, any perfect grade. It was victory, redefined. Anya broke the kiss, resting their foreheads together, both of them breathing hard. "Still game on?" Anya murmured, her eyes dark and questioning. Lena didn't hesitate. "Game changed," she corrected, giving Anya a small, confident smile. Chapter 5, A World Undone. They didn't sleep. The kiss had ripped the professional facade to shreds, leaving them both raw and hyper-aware. The hours before sunrise were a blur of shared glances, whispered confessions, and a devastatingly thorough exploration of the physical chemistry that had been simmering between them for a decade. By the time the sun actually rose, streaming golden light across the cluttered dining table, they were draped together on the sofa, covered in the plush throws, the server still humming softly in the corner. The world felt quiet, reset, and permanently altered. "We broke every rule," Lena whispered, tracing the line of Anya's collarbone. Anya smiled, her eyes still sleepy and soft. "Good. Rules are just policy waiting to be rewritten." But the real world, the one they had briefly escaped, was about to reclaim them. A loud, demanding beep from the dining table signaled that the remote simulation was complete. They jumped up, adrenaline flooding the space where intimacy had just been. Anya hurried to the laptop, Lena right behind her. Anya pulled up the data logs. "Okay. The model ran perfectly. We have the data." Anya paused, her expression hardening into the professional mask. "Wait. Look at this." She scrolled quickly through the projected impact reports. The numbers were catastrophic. "The environmental impact data is exponentially worse than we calculated," Lena breathed, her professional dread returning with a vengeance. "The specific gravity of the marshland sediment, it means the pollution won't just spread, it will pool and stagnate, killing the entire ecosystem within 5 years. And look at the market forecast," Anya said, pointing to a corresponding economic chart. "If the pollution projections hold, the required remediation costs are going to destroy the financial viability of the entire port. It makes the investment portfolio toxic. It's a lose-lose." The policy they were writing, the one they had worked so hard to save, was actually a time bomb. Lena slowly sat down, her mind reeling. "We can't submit this. The Institute is counting on this deal. They will bury this data." "Exactly," Anya said, her voice taut with purpose. She looked at Lena, the passion from the night now channeled into a shared ethical conviction. The goal was never just to win the internal competition, Lena. It was to write good policy. If we submit this, The institute gets its money, but an entire coastline and thousands of livelihoods get destroyed. Lena's competitive instinct warred violently with her sudden, powerful moral alignment with Anya. The truth was, she had always hated the feeling of working toward a flawed conclusion. "We have to stop it," Lena declared, her own focus returning with laser intensity. "We need to write a counter-proposal. A definitive, ethically sound model for sustainable port development, not a toxic expansion." 6 weeks for the white paper. "We have less than a week until the final internal review," Anya pointed out. "We'd have to scrap our entire existing framework and submit something completely new. We'll be risking our entire careers. We'll be opposing the Institute's official position. We'll be protecting the coast, Anya," Lena countered, stepping toward her. She took Anya's hand, holding it tight, a new, unspoken contract of partnership. "We'll be proving that ethical policy can beat profit-driven policy. We'll be rewriting the rules." Anya smiled, the challenge back in her eyes, but this time it was a challenge they would face together. "I knew you had it in you, Volkov. From enemies to co-conspirators. I like it." Chapter 6: The Unclaimed Victory. The next 5 days were a blur of caffeine, code, and clandestine meetings. They worked not in the cube, but in Anya's apartment, their relationship deepening with every late-night session. The emotional vulnerability from the night of the kiss translated into a profound, intimate trust that powered their work. They rebuilt the paper from the ground up. Elena stripped down the financial models, creating a lean, data-backed proposal for phased, environmentally neutral development. Anya used her global network, compiling crucial annexes on community engagement and political feasibility, demonstrating that the ethical path was also the smart path. They were a single, unstoppable force, 2 halves of a whole. Lena, the perfect structure and rigor. Anya, the empathetic connectivity and vision. The day of the internal review arrived. The conference room was tense, filled with investors, department heads, and a clearly irritated Dr. Evans. Anya and Lena stood side by side. Anya presented first, her charismatic delivery focusing on the human and political imperative for a sustainable approach. She used the story of the Shenzhen fisherman, bringing the abstract concept of policy down to a human level. Then, Lena took over. She presented the catastrophic data from the simulation, the true, toxic outcome of the initial plan, and laid out their new, revised model. Her voice was sharp, professional, and entirely unwavering. She had never been so calm, so clear, or so right. "The initial model offers short-term gain for long-term ruin," Lena concluded, clicking to a final slide showing their phased, sustainable plan. "Our revised model is profitable, environmentally sound, and, most importantly, stable. It is the only ethical and viable path forward." The room erupted in a storm of questions, panic, and outrage. Dr. Evans, flushed with embarrassment, tried to shut them down. "This is not the Institute's position," he sputtered. "You two are undermining the entire investment package." Anya stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on Lena's arm. "We are reporting the facts, Dr. Evans. Our duty is to accurate policy. If the Institute chooses to ignore verifiable data for the sake of a flawed investment, that is a matter for the Ethics Board." They stood firm, a unified front against the powerful forces of institutional inertia and greed. Epilogue: Claiming the prize. The fallout was predictable and swift. The Institute was forced to halt the original port deal. The investors were furious. Dr. Evans, facing an internal inquiry, quietly resigned 2 weeks later. Anya and Lena were both reprimanded for violating protocol, but they were also hailed, both publicly and privately, as the 2 most ethically driven, courageous thinkers the Institute had seen in years. Their revised white paper was immediately picked up by an international environmental NGO and used as the foundation for a new, global development mandate. 3 months later, Lena was packing her office. Her desk was cleaner than usual, but the atmosphere was lighter. She was leaving the Institute. Anya leaned in the doorway, watching her. "Leaving so soon, Volkov? I thought you wanted the director's chair." Lena smiled, a genuine, easy smile that was now reserved almost exclusively for Anya. The director's chair is boring, Sharma. Besides, you won the original wager. I did. Anya raised an eyebrow. I thought it was a draw, considering we both got reprimanded. No. Your field data and ethical drive were the superior foundation for the true paper, the one that mattered, Lena admitted. I owe you dinner. My loss. Anya walked into the room, her movements fluid and confident. She stopped in front of Lena and gently took the heavy box of books from her hands. I decided the terms have changed, Anya murmured. We both won something much bigger than the director's chair, didn't we? We won the right to write our own rules. She set the box down and took Lena's hands. My dinner choice still stands, Lena. But the topic isn't an interview about my life. It's a discussion about our life. Lena squeezed her hands. She had accepted an offer to co-direct a new, independent policy think tank focused on global sustainability. And she had insisted on a single condition. Anya Sharma would be her co-director and partner. Where are we going? Lena asked, feeling the familiar, thrilling hum of challenge and belonging. Somewhere far away from institutional politics, Anya said, her eyes shining with promise. And somewhere where we can finally put that incredible brain of yours to work fixing the world, right next to mine. Deal, Lena said, leaning in for a kiss that tasted of freedom and the sweet, long-awaited victory of choosing love over rivalry. The unclaimed trophy was not a title or a chair. It was the woman standing in front of her.